good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My presentation will take approximately 20 minutes and will deal specifically with machinery and industrial products and the implications for your businesses following the UK withdrawal from the EU. Brief outline of the presentation. I'll talk a small bit about trade and the importance of trade with our UK partners. Also talk about EU legislation and the regulatory function of the Health and Safety Authority. Standards and compliance. I'll also deal with economic operators and the requirements before and after the 1st of January 2021. A brief outline of notified bodies and their requirements. Also then towards the end I'll discuss the EU Northern Ireland Protocol and again how that might affect industrial products. And finally then just a small outline of what preparation you should do even at this stage in preparation for the UK withdrawal. So Ireland has historically a very good trading relationship with the UK. As you can see from the figures there, in 2019, Ireland imported 18.7 billion worth of goods from the UK and exported 13.5 billion worth of goods. 4 billion of these related to machinery and transport imports. So as you can see from the figures, we have a very strong trading relationship with the UK and with GB, and no doubt we would like that trade to continue, and hopefully it will after Brexit, but we must be prepared to ensure that we are aware of the consequences of the UK leaving, particularly on the regulatory side. As I said, we have a lot of trade. We do a lot of trade in agricultural machinery, construction machinery, manufacturing machinery, and particularly equipment and machines for our IT industry. So the requirements of the EU market. The EU market, as we're all aware, it allows free movement of goods. Products must be built to a certain standard, and particularly a certain safety standard for all users, so that no one has an unfair advantage. So this ensures fair competition among all manufacturers and all traders. As I say, so there's no unfair advantage if somebody is producing goods to a lesser standard or to a poor standard. It also this is ensured by the regulations of the EU directives and the legislation, for which we are an authorised body. So the role of the Health and Safety Authority as a regulator. We are currently the competent national authority responsible for regulation of machinery and industrial products in Ireland. So our role involves ensuring that machinery and certain products coming on the market are to the required safety standards and comply with the relevant EU law and the directives. The Health and Safety Authority carries out ongoing workplace inspections and market surveillance of machinery and products on the market to ensure compliance with the requirements. So as I stated, we cover most of the EU directives in relation to machinery and industrial products. This includes 6 directives under the remit of my unit and the Health and Safety Authority. The Health and Safety Authority does have other directives in relation particularly to chemicals and transport of TPED and pressure equipment. So we cover Machinery Directive, the List Directive, PP Directive, which we are particularly busy with, as you can imagine, over the last number of months. We deal with the Pressure Equipment Directive, again a very complex directive. ATEX, which deals with equipment in flammable atmospheres. The Gas Appliances Directive in relation to commercial products. So all these directives are aligned in Irish law by specific market surveillance regulations. And there's an overreaching guidance in relation to market surveillance, which is called the Blue Guide, which gives further guidance in relation to how market surveillance rules apply, particularly for various directives. So the first directive that we deal with really is machinery, and is particularly applicable in relation to our imports and exports. The scope of machinery is very broad. It's defined in the Machinery Directive as an assembly fitted with or intended to be fitted with a drive system other than directly applied human or animal effort, consisting of linked parts or components, at least one of which moves and which are joined together for a specific application. So this is a very broad definition, and because of that, it covers a wide range of products, not only machinery, but electrical goods and effectively any machine or equipment that is driven by power source. So some examples of machinery we cover would be lathes, drills, manufacturing machines and equipment, agricultural machinery such as combine harvesters, balers, etc., forklifts, trucks, escalators, meat processing machines, and construction machines, as you're all familiar with, diggers, bulldozers, teleporters, dump trucks, and other equipment and parts. Now, there are a number of exclusions from the Machinery Directive, particularly agricultural and forestry tractors, weapons, fairground equipment, and items that are covered more specifically by other directives. So part of the Machinery Directive is a section called Annex 4. Anyone familiar with the Machinery Directive would be familiar with this section, and the machines covered under this section would be termed Annex 4 machines, and they are considered high-risk machines. So the safety tests and requirements on these machines are particularly stringent and may require a notified body before these products can be placed on the market. Some of the examples of Annex 4 machine, now this is a non-exhaustive list, would be circular saws, hand-fed planing machines, band saws, vehicle lifts, chainsaws, press machines, rollover protection structures, and devices for lifting persons involving a hazard of falling more than 3 meters. So, harmonized standards. As we're aware, when a product is manufactured for the EU market, it must be designed and built to the required standards, which include particularly stringent safety requirements. So there's many sets of standards out there, but standards, once they're reviewed and approved by expert groups and ratified by the directive working groups in the EU, once agreed, then become harmonized standards. So harmonized standards are a particular standard in that if a product is manufactured and built to that harmonized standard, there is a presumption of conformity to the directive. This makes life somewhat easier for the market surveillance authorities because once the product is built to that standard, there is presumption of conformity and it is there's a presumption that it is in compliance with the directive. So the standards are tied in directly with the directive and the regulations. So the EU requirements. So the requirements for placing products on the market is regulated by EU legislation through directives and regulations. Now it's important to remember that this will not change after the UK transition period. The UK transition period and the withdrawal of the UK effectively will affect the UK trade and UK participation within the EU. The EU rules in relation to products going on the market will not change whatsoever. So products, as always, will be required to be manufactured to the required standards before they can be placed on the EU market. So placing on the market means making a product available for the first time in the European Union. The economic operator responsible must be established in the EU. So before placing products on the market, an economic operator must be established in the Union who is responsible for ensuring that machinery and products are in compliance with the required EU legislation. This allows particularly follow-up by the market surveillance authorities that they can directly address the issues with a responsible person established within the EU. So what is an economic operator? Excuse me. An economic operator can be a manufacturer. This is the person who manufactures a product or had the product designed and manufactured and markets that product under their trade name. An importer is a person established within the European Economic Area who first places a product from a third country on the market of the EEA. A distributor, which a lot of you out there may be today, or a wholesaler, is there any person in the supply chain other than the manufacturer or the importer who makes a product available on the market. And an authorized representative is a person established in the EEA who's received a written mandate from a manufacturer to act on their behalf. So I'll just briefly go through the duties on the various economic operators because it's important in relation to Brexit and the transfer of responsibilities for different economic operators. So the duty on the manufacturer, before placing machinery on the market, he must ensure that it satisfies the relevant health and safety requirements as set out in Annex 1. The manufacturer must also ensure that the technical file is compiled and available for inspection. Again, the manufacturer must provide instructions and other information as required in the language of the member state. Should carry out appropriate procedures for Annex 4 machines, as I spoke about earlier, to ensure conformity with the engagement of an EU notified body or self-assessment as required under Article 12. So Annex 4 machines, the various means of ensuring conformity, we'd have to go into the detail of the directive to discuss that further, but we can advise people further on that if required. So the manufacturer must ensure that an EU declaration of conformity, and the manufacturer's duty is to compile that and sign off on the EU declaration of conformity. And finally, affix the CE marking in accordance with Article 16 of the directive. So the duty on the importer, this is a particularly important slide because a lot of distributors who are out there at the moment and they continue trading with the UK or particularly with Great Britain, they will change from a role of a distributor to a role of an importer. So it's important that they realize the responsibilities that they may take on if to continue trading with the UK after Brexit. So the duty on the importer, they must ensure that the manufacturer has carried out the steps as outlined above. So the main duties at the moment lie with the manufacturer and the importer to ensure the product is manufactured to the required standards. The name and contact details of the importer must also be listed on the product, included with the manufacturer's markings and details. The importer should notify the authority of any risks or non-compliances as they become aware of during that process. They should also keep copies of declarations of conformity and technical documentation for 10 years. And also the duty on the importer to withdraw or recall unsafe or non-compliant products as appropriate. So the duties on the distributor at the moment, if you're a distributor, are not as onerous as on the other two duty holders. The distributor must ensure that the product bears a CE mark, and it must be accompanied by the required documents and instructions. The manufacturer, they should also ensure that the manufacturer and importer markings are on the product. And again, they should notify the authority of any risks or non-compliances if they become aware. They should also keep copies of declarations of conformity and technical documentation for 10 years. And they must not supply products that they know are not in compliance with the legislation. So there's a presumption of conformity by the distributor if there's a CE mark and also a declaration of conformity accompanying the products. So they don't need to go into the design or look at any of the other technical information in relation to the product. So we're all familiar with the CE marking. You'll see it on most industrial products. It's important that the CE mark is to the required dimensions, and also that there's an indelible marking with a plate on the product giving the details of the manufacturer and the conformity compliance. It's one of the first things we look for is the CE mark, and particularly if we coming from an unauthorized manufacturer or somebody not in compliance, if they can't get the CE mark right, it means then straight away you're suspicious that the product might not be up to the standard. So the CE mark is required on machinery sold in the European Economic Area. The symbol is an indication that the machine is in compliance with the relevant directive. It's important to note, though, there's no guarantee that it is, because anyone can put a CE mark on a product. So the manufacturer, the authorized representative who places the product on the market or puts into service such product is responsible for compliance and the conformity assessment of that product. Now, notified bodies, we'll discuss them further on as well in relation to Brexit. Notified bodies, they are independent conformity assessment bodies accredited to carry out procedures for conformity. So they have various requirements for testing and certification under the different directives, particularly machinery, lifts, PPE, the Pressure Equipment Directive, and other directives. So notified bodies are approved for specific directives or part of a directive, and they must have a legal presence in an EU member state. So to check a notified body and to see if it is a recognized notified body within Europe, there is an EU NANDO website, and there's a link there. But if you just Google EU NANDO, you will get the link straight away up on Google. So if you're importing from the UK now, and just say you're a distributor now, the manufacturer or the importer in the UK bears most of the obligations. So the wholesaler or distributor may be entitled to rely on the presumption of conformity by the correct CE marking and by the declaration of conformity. So for the distributor, it's not necessary to check the whole design of the machine against the essential health and safety requirements of the directive before supplying to the market, once the technical file is located in the community. And you can transfer or pass the machine on in the same package, accompanied by the appropriate declaration of conformity and instruction manual to other distributors, because you have been given the presumption that it is in conformity. So your duties after the importation of, after the transition period. In the event of no deal on the 1st of January 2021, Great Britain will have the same status as the USA, China, India. That is, they become a third country. So the following will apply. So a distributor of machinery originating from GB now becomes the importer. Prior to this, the importer could have been based in the UK, or the manufacturer could be based in the UK and first placed it on the market in the UK. And that allowed you to be just a distributor within the EU. But after the transition period, you become the importer because it's first going on the market in the EU when you place it on the market. So an Irish importer now must ensure that the full conformity assessment has been carried out by the manufacturer. So to do this, the Irish importer needs full access to the complete technical file for the product, showing how the design construction meets all the essential health and safety requirements. So the person responsible who is the manufacturer for the product must still draw up and sign the EU Declaration of Conformity, stating products are in compliance. That may change if an importer decides to put his own trademark on the product. He effectively then becomes the manufacturer, and he will be required to make the declaration. So we mentioned notified bodies before the transition period. Now, after the transition period, as I said, UK notified bodies will be removed from the NANDO website. So the importer must ensure that the machine or product, when placed on the market, where it's required, is certified by an EU notified body. So there are lots of machines and products that can be manufactured out there that do not need EU notified body certification. But a lot of the directives that I've covered will need some sort of EU notified body participation. So our economic operators hold certificates issued by a UK notified body at present. They are advised to consider either applying for a new cert issued by an EU notified body or arranging for a transfer of the file and the corresponding certificate from the UK notified body to an EU notified body, which then takes over the responsibility for that certification. So this will apply particularly, I suppose, in relation to production of PPE, also the lift directives. There's requirements there for ongoing assessment by EU notified bodies. So the Northern Ireland Protocol, as Yvonne stated, this is still, there's still negotiations going on, and the UK have different interpretations of it. But as it stands, we are taking the legal EU interpretation. So Northern Ireland will remain aligned to a limited set of EU rules, notably rules relating to goods. So this avoids any customs or regulatory checks or controls on the island of Ireland. So if Northern Ireland manufacturers use an EU notified body, they can apply the CE mark only. So with the CE mark only, goods are valid in the EU and also they're valid in the UK. A product manufactured in Northern Ireland and shipped to the EU is not an imported product for the purpose of labelling and identification of economic operators and responsible persons. So if you're a distributor in Ireland of goods from Northern Ireland, you will remain a distributor. You don't become an importer. So, but a product shipped from Great Britain to Northern Ireland is an imported product. So it can get confusing, but if the product is coming from the UK and going to Northern Ireland first, then you may have a role as an importer. So where a product is certified by a Northern Ireland notified body, the CE mark plus the UK NI mark must be affixed, and it then can be placed on the market in Northern Ireland, but not in the EU. So if there's a CE mark plus a UK NI mark, it can be sold in Northern Ireland, but it cannot be sold in the EU. Goods from the UK carrying the UK CE mark will not be valid for sale in Northern Ireland or the EU. So basically, if it carries a CE mark only, it can be placed on the EU market, providing a DOC and EU notified body is used. So the EU notified body allows for the CE mark and can be sold in the EU and the UK. If it's a Northern Ireland notified body, CE mark plus the UK NI mark, and it can be sold in Northern Ireland and the UK only. Small bit confusing, but it is fairly clear unless it changes with the EU further ratifications or further changes to legislation. So the question now is, as I come towards the end of my presentation, are you Brexit ready? So to prepare, you should carry out a Brexit risk assessment, taking the following questions into account. The main change, if you're a distributor at the moment, is, and you continue to deal with the UK, or to deal with Great Britain in particular, you will become an importer. So do you obtain machinery and equipment from a GB manufacturer? You will become an importer with the duties that follow if you continue to do so. Does your supply chain come from a third country? And as I said, third country is a country outside of the EU. So does your supply chain come from a third country, but first, the product first placed on the market in the UK? So the same applies. You will become an importer if you're bringing it into the EU. Do you need to source a new EU supplier? This is one option open for you. Are you aware of your responsibilities as an importer from a third country? These responsibilities have been listed in the earlier slides. And can you get the technical and safety information required from the GB manufacturer if continuing to use that supply chain? So as an importer, you will need this information to ensure that you can comply with your duties to ensure that the product is in compliance. And will your details be included on the packaging and information leaflets? It's important as an importer, if you become an importer, that this information is on the packaging and on the information leaflets. And are you competent to carry out your duties? If you don't feel competent or you're not familiar enough with the legislation, you need to get the services of somebody who is competent to carry out those duties for you. So do you use a notified body at the moment? So do you use a UK notified body for compliance? If you do, then you should engage with your UK notified body to see what you need to do to transfer the certification to an EU notified body, an EU 27 notified body. You need to check with the EU NANDA website to ensure your new notified body is accredited as a notified body for your products, and particularly for the parts of the products that you are dealing with. And you should engage with your new notified body to ensure they've taken responsibility for your product, for your product's certs. This ensures that they take responsibility depending on the specific conformity assessment procedure required for the product concerned under the applicable product legislation. And lastly, if you're exporting to the UK, are you aware of the UK requirements after the transition period? We do not cover this in this presentation. You will have to engage with the UK information websites in relation to that. So finally, this is a list of useful websites where you can get more information. Two of them relate to the Health and Safety Authority website, and also the European advice websites there as well, and also the government.ie websites in relation to Brexit. So just for your own reference, the directives are listed here in this slide, and along with the Irish legislation, which brings them into Irish law. So thank you for your attention. I hope you gained some useful information in relation to your businesses following Brexit. The legislation can be quite complex, particularly with varying requirements across the range of directives covered.